Psalms 95, 97, 98, and 99. Let's use this opportunity and these Psalms to talk and, in a sense, review, but also look ahead as to how God's name is described in the Old Testament, and then what happens as the language of the Old Testament moves through two translations into where we live today. This kind of information I often spread out over an entire hour in a classroom, so let's see if we can do it in 5 minutes. I think we can, because you're getting pretty good at this material. Let me read to you Psalm 95:3. This is the Old Testament Hebrew Bible. Think of this as a David or the psalmist saying these things. Psalm 95:3. For Yahweh is the great Elohim and a great king above all Elohim. So again, think of this as the big cloud. Think of this level as the small clouds, the created Elohim. Psalm 97:5. The mountains melt at the presence of Yahweh, at the presence of the Adonai over all the earth. Adonai, we've not talked about that word. It just means master or lord, one who is over something. It's a general term. Psalm 136:2 and 3. O give thanks to the Elohim of Elohim and to the Adonai of Adonim, plural, for his mercy endures forever. So I think that's pretty review for us, that we have one God who is the creator, and he goes by one name, and all of these are titles. And of course these titles here are for created beings, but everything above the horizon, these are spirits. Now again, we're talking about that's how the Old Testament works. Again, that should be review. Well, here's what happens. In about 200 BC, many Jews, because of the exile, stop reading or knowing Hebrew. They learn Greek because of Alexander the Great and mass Hellenization that goes around the world. The first book, really, that's ever translated into another language is the Old Testament Torah, or the Old Testament Bible, into the Greek Septuagint. LXX is the abbreviation for the Greek Bible that Jesus would have had, that Paul would have used, and the early church. So this is still the Old Testament. Don't think New Testament, even though the characters, Jesus, Paul, and the disciples, are New Testament characters. This is the Bible of the New Testament, which is the Old Testament just in Greek. Here's what happens, and it's, again, it's often known, but just to review it on one screen like this is very helpful. The name Yahweh is never placed in the Septuagint. They decide to use the general title Kurios when they translate or come upon the word Yahweh. So Yahweh turns into Kurios in the Greek New Testament. That's only a title, not a name. Elohim stays with the title, but in Greek now, Theos, Adonai, notice that's a title as well, and it goes to Kurios because Kurios means master or lord. And here's where the confusion could be. Before, we noticed how the confusion could be here, right? Singular versus plural. That was always something we had to think about, even if we knew Hebrew. Now the confusion, even for those who know Greek, is that Kurios, in its appearance in the Septuagint, we may be speaking, depending on the context, of Yahweh or some other master or lord. It could even be a human. That's again how general the title can be. Of course, in plural, and this is often used for the created gods, theoi is simply a title for plural theos, and kurioi is the plural for kurios. So again, notice that one name has now moved in the Septuagint to no names. All we have are titles in the Septuagint. All right, so now moving into English. Here is where things, again, get confusing, I would say, even for those who have studied the Bible all their life. The word Lord, if you know what to look for, as we've talked about, that's the name Yahweh in Hebrew, because our English translations have decided, they just made a decision, and I don't know who invented this, but instead of using the name Yahweh, again, it's probably to not offend our Jewish friends, we have kept the word Yahweh out of our Old Testament and replaced it with the word Lord in capital letters. If you didn't know that, then you would never know the name of our God, right? I've asked numerous college classrooms that I taught. I would just be working through a class and I would stop and remember to ask this just to get a feel for the room. And even among college Bible college seniors, when I would ask, what's the name of Israel's God? Less than half of the students knew it was Yahweh. And I couldn't blame them for that because their own Bible didn't use the word Yahweh. It's an odd title. Notice it is still a title. It is not a name. And so I'll call it an odd title because it doesn't really help us know the name of the very person we're talking about. Notice then what happens with theos. Theos goes through a lot of other languages, and God actually is a derivative of the German Gott, G-O-T-T. And kurios is translated as Lord, again, as English builds on other languages. And what's interesting, again, is that we choose to capitalize those two letters, G and L, simply out of a theological decision. The translator believes that he's coming upon theos in the Septuagint or Elohim in the Old Testament Hebrew, and the decision is made that if it's talking about Yahweh or Jesus, and that's a theological decision to do that, they'll capitalize the G or they'll capitalize the L. If the translator does not believe that those words are talking about God, Yahweh, or Jesus, then they'll lowercase the letters. But notice how both of those decisions are purely theological. There is nothing in the text to tell us that that's a capital G or a capital L. All right, so what do we do in the end? Let me recommend what to do. And this doesn't sound good to many people. Sometimes my classrooms have chafed at this, but I think it's where we have to go. Number one, we have to get rid of this whole third column. No biblical character, whether Old Testament or New Testament characters, no one thought in English. Now that sounds okay, I can take it, but really what I mean by that is we cannot say the word God in the classroom, capital G, because there is no such thing as a capital G, capital L Lord in the Bible. There are only theoi and kurioi. There are Adonai and there are Elohim. All biblical study must be done here, to be fair, because as soon as we put capital letters on things, we have made a theological decision again that the text has not given us, especially in the story of Scripture. And I think you can see where this is going. When we get to the New Testament, we are going to say, is Jesus God or is he a God? If you had said that to the biblical characters, they would look at you in silence because that word doesn't have any sense to them. You would have to ask them in these terms, and that's what we'll do when we get there. One other thing, in dropping the English, I think now, and I'm going to just show you this, how it makes sense of ideas to come. Let me just give you 3 quick passages to talk about Jesus. How will Jesus fit into this pretty clear story of the Old Testament, but how will Jesus fit in? It's pretty amazing to me. For there are, this is Paul in 1 Corinthians 8, verses 5 and 6. Paul says this, he's here. He is a Old Testament character in the sense he's reading an Old Testament, but he's a New Testament person because he's reading Greek. And here's what he says. For there are many theoi, and there are many kurioi. Paul believes in the gods of the Old Testament. Yet for us there is one theos, the Father, and one kurios, Jesus Christ. See how that term, these terms, because they're titles, they can be given by decision of the writer to a person who is above this line, as it were, the creator-created line. John 20:28, this is when Thomas meets the resurrected Jesus and puts his hand on his side or in his palm. Thomas said to Jesus, my kurios and my theos. Do you notice what happens? Theos and kurios now, because they're titles, they can be transferred, they can be moved around. Now the word theos is applied to Jesus and kurios as well. So Paul and Thomas both use these terms, but they don't use them the same because they don't have to be. These are roles. And then Romans 10:9. This is Paul, and the statement of the gospel in the clearest sense we can hear. What did it mean to be a Christian in the New Testament? If you confess with your mouth, Kurios, Jesus, you will be saved.